Welcome to New York Got Game.
All right, welcome back to another edition of New York Got Game. Got a fun episode for the people this week. Got a new series that we are kicking off, and we're going to talk about a Knicks transaction that went down last week. Mikal Bridges, he signed his extension. We don't have any time to waste, so let's get right into it.
Dexter Henry takes on the Big Apple.
Okay, we got ourselves a new series that we are going to be doing over the next couple of weeks where we look at the top 25 Knicks of the century. You want to call it the top 25 Knicks since the year 2000. This is what we're going to do. Now, this is me creating a list. This is a list created by me, right? Nobody else helped me with this list. I didn't get any input on this list. I did have my producers look this over. They had some things they thought they would have moved or changed, but it's my list. And I understand that this list is going to go out there and there's going to be some debate. Some people may not like where I've ranked a player. They might want to rank somebody higher. I welcome all comments, and I also welcome you can do your own list. That is all fine. Lists are to be made. They're to be discussed. They're to be debated. They are to have fun. But before you get into a list, when you make these lists, you got to have some criteria, right? So this is not just anybody who played for the Knicks within these last 25 years. To make this list, you had to be drafted, traded, or signed by the Knicks after June of 2000. So this takes away some people who did play for the Knicks in the early 2000s but had signed before them, like a Latrell Sprewell, right? Like a Kurt Thomas. They did not count for this because they had signed or re-signed with the Knicks before this. So I took them out of this because we had to have some criteria. Otherwise, we just put everybody in there. Otherwise, you could count Patrick Ewing. So Patrick Ewing, if you're wondering, not going to be on this list, right? We know how great Patrick Ewing is as a Knick, but he is not going to be on this list. The other thing we're going to look at is impact as a Knick. And also, I even said signed and I said traded, right, to or drafted, but you could also have re-signed as a Knick during that time, and that would also count for that as well, too. But impact as a Knick. How much did you impact this franchise, right? What did you do? This will also include what are your great moments? And you get more value from me if those moments happened when it really matters in the playoffs. And then where was your peak of your play as a Knickerbocker, right? Was the peak of your play and the time in which you were great when you wore the orange and blue? Did that happen? Then another factor here to try to give some separation into how I rank people on this list is longevity. How long were you at that peak of play in the orange and blue? How long were you a Knickerbocker? And how long was your greatness in your time as a Knickerbocker? So this was a fun list. I thought it was a great time to do it. You know, here at the New York Post, we had done the Mount Postmore here earlier this year. We have something else coming where we're going to be looking at some New York athletes, but I wanted to get something done that was specifically for the Knicks fans, that they could look at and talk about over the next couple weeks. So we have our 25 players, and then what we're going to do each week is we're going to take it 5 players at a time. So we're not going to go through the whole thing today. We're going to go from numbers 25 through 21. That's what we're going to do. So we're going to get this started. And coming in at number 25 is a guy I was a huge fan of growing up. That is Marcus Camby. Now, Marcus Camby, very interesting because he had 2 stints with the Knicks, and he played in the early part of the 2000s from 2000 to 2002. Now, he would not have qualified for this because he had signed a contract with the Knicks after the 98 season. He signed his extension after the 98 season. But the reason he does qualify for the Knicks here is he also played for the Knicks in the 2012-2013 season when the Knicks picked him up to be a role player at the end of the bench. Everybody remembers that great 2012-2013 season and how fun that Knicks team was. And Marcus Camby, even at his older age, was still very much a part of that as a role player that helped him. Now, Marcus Camby was an elite shot blocker. One of the best shot blockers you will see in Knicks history, even if you think about his time coming to the Knicks in the late 90s and what he was able to do. He had some extremely memorable moments. I mean, I cannot forget when he yammed it on Dikembe Mutombo during that playoff run back in '99. I mean, that was one of the best moments that you will see from Marcus Camby. And he had the athleticism. You see him jamming here if you're watching it on our video version of the show. I mean, he was a player that really changed things for the Knicks with his energy, his rebounding, his high flying, his shot blocking. You know, he really was one of the early rim running centers that you see all over the league right now. And Marcus Camby was not the biggest guy when he came into the league out of UMass. He was 6'11", but didn't have like a big frame. And he was a slim guy. And, you know, when I was growing up, when I was playing high school basketball, you know, I kind of modeled a lot of my game after Marcus Camby, being a good rebounder, a shot blocker. I had the nickname Little Camby back in high school. And this was a guy who averaged a double-double for the Knicks in the 2000-2001 season, in the 2001-2002 season, in the 2012-2013 season I talked about when he came back to the Knicks, and it was a much welcome return that Knicks fans remember. He played 24 games in that season. Over 5 total seasons that he had in New York, he averaged 9.3 points, 8.3 rebounds, 1.8 blocks per game. So this guy was close to a double-double for his Knicks career. Knicks fans will also remember he got traded for Antonio McDyess in a trade that, we'll be honest, was not a good one at all whatsoever. That was not a trade that a lot of Knicks fans want to remember. But I think when you think about Marcus Camby and his impact for the Knicks, and he sneaks in here at 25. I understand there's some names I could have even put here at 25. And I'll let people know already if you're wondering about some people left off. And we'll talk about honorable mentions later. But you're probably thinking about a Jeremy Lin. But I just thought, and this is where longevity matters here. Jeremy Lin didn't do it that long. Had a huge high with Linsanity. We all remember that, but that is the regular season. Marcus Camby did it in the playoffs. Spark plug for the Knicks. Fantastic role player. Great big man. Amazing defender, right? Won Depoy of the Year. Finished close a couple of other times. Had a couple other strong finishes that Marcus Camby did with the Denver Nuggets, even after the Knicks. So this is a guy who was a tremendous defender throughout his career. Marcus Camby is a Knicks fan that still gets a ton of love when he comes back at the Garden. So for me at number 25, my guy Marcus Camby, the Camby man, coming in with the 25th spot. Okay, now at number 24, we have a guy who played only one season with the Knicks, and the Knicks fans miss him. That is Dante DiVincenzo. Played in the 2023-2024 season, and in that season, man, Dante had a career year. Look, a lot of Knicks fans, and I heard it a lot last year doing this show, doing our live shows, even when I was at the Garden at games, Knicks fans would come to me and say, yo, Dex, we miss Dante. We miss Dante. We miss the three-point shooting. We miss the volume that he had. And it was a career year for him in the 23-24 season. Averaged over 15 points a game. That was a career high. He hit a Knicks franchise record 83 threes in that season. Shot 40% from downtown. That was also a career high in effective field goal percentage, .584. And here's why I think Dante gets that. It was the volume of threes that he put up. He put up a lot of threes, and he was hitting about 3.5 a game. And amazing volume of threes. And look, the Knicks missed that last season. There's no doubt about it. They missed Dante DiVincenzo. But I think when you think about Dante DiVincenzo, because I always like to think about these players and like, what's their moment? What's the great moment that they had as a Knick that reminds you? And for a guy to have a moment like he had, game-winning 3 versus the Sixers in Game 2 of their first-round series in 2024, and you'll remember this play for the scramble, the madness that went. Dante DiVincenzo misses a 3, and Isaiah Hardenstein gets that huge rebound, kicks it out. Dante DiVincenzo knocks down that 3, and I was in the building. The Garden went nuts. It's the loudest I personally have ever heard the Garden. I think Dante DiVincenzo will tell you that was the biggest shot of his career. It is an iconic Knicks playoff moment. He has that. I talked about the volume he shot threes and how efficient he was. It was a career high 8.7 3-point attempts per game, made 3.5 a game. I mean, he was fantastic. And all the Knicks loved him. He was part of the Villanova crew. The Italian community here in New York, they loved him, right? Maybe the biggest Italian player the Knicks have had since Danilo Gallinari, who we'll get to later in this program. Not this program, but just overall that we're talking about on this list. Danilo Gallinari is here, so you will know that. But Dante DiVincenzo, I mean, when you think about him, you got to think about he is one of the best Knicks signings that you've probably seen in the last 25 years, honestly, ever, because of the productivity that he gave you after his first year with the team. And this was a guy who was coming off the bench early to start that 23-24 season. He was behind Quentin Grimes. Then he overtook him in the starting lineup, and he never looked back. And look, we know Dante never wanted to leave New York. He was not happy after he was traded in the trade for Karl-Anthony Towns with Julius Randle. But when you look at that one season that he had with the Knickerbockers in 23-24, hard to find a better first season for a Knickerbocker role player. And, man, he was tremendous. As I said, an iconic moment, one of the great shooters in Knicks history. We'll see if his record for three-pointers is ever broken down the road. But what a shooter, what a player. And listen, Knicks fans, I know a lot of you out there would love to have him back. I think if Dante had played more years here at the Garden, he would probably be higher up this list. And that's a theme I think you're going to see with some of the guys we talk about here towards the bottom of this top 25. There's a lot of names that are beloved Knicks, but they just didn't have the time or the resume, so they would be a lot higher. But Dante DiVincenzo, one of the great Knicks signings in terms of free agency in recent memory and probably of all time, and well-deserving of his spot here at 24, and probably would have been a lot higher. Coming in at 23, Emanuel Quickley. 3 seasons, or 2.5, I should say, with the Knickerbockers. And Quickley, or IQ, some of us affectionately called him, high-level bench scorer. And you saw it from the beginning in his rookie year. This kid had no fear. He had a great shot, elite floater, strong on-ball defender for his size, not a big guard, 6'1", 6'2", had a lot of Lou Williams comparisons early on, but you saw he had a knack for buckets. He had a good feel for the game. I will say this here, he is one of the Knicks' best draft picks for value. Where they got him when they drafted him back in 2020. I mean, tremendous. And then you look in 2023, he was a runner-up for Sixth Man of the Year and a key piece to the 23 playoff squad. So we saw the great play from him in that year with 22-23 season. Tremendous play off the bench. I thought he should have won that Sixth Man of the Year. But I think one of his moments you always think about is his game in Boston, where he just went off at the Boston Garden for the Knicks. Jalen Brunson was out, and he was just cooking from downtown. You remember that in that 2022-23 season. Tremendous player, coming off the bench, would be able to score and get you a bucket whenever you need it, was fearless. I think that's the way I would describe IQ. Fearless was what you saw from him. And you see that moment where the Knicks won that double overtime game and IQ was skipping down the court. That's probably one of my lasting memories of him. Now, ultimately, he was traded to Toronto in the OG Anunoby deal before he had a really chance to break out here in New York. But as a first-round pick, 25th overall in the 2020 draft, I mean, that is a great value pick for a guy who turned into a runner-up for Sixth Man of the Year back in 2023. He averaged just under 13 points in his Knick career, just over 3 assists a game, shot 37% from downtown as a Knick. A tremendous shooter. A lot of fans were sad to see him go. You saw the love when he came back with R.J. Barrett to the Garden a couple weeks after he was traded to the Toronto Raptors. There was a lot of love. My daughter, that was her favorite player. That was the first Knicks jersey I had got her. She loved Quickley. That was her guy. Had to explain to her when he got traded. But Emanuel Quickley, tremendous Knick, deserving as 23. He's another guy I'm going to put here that, look, easily could have been higher up the rankings here. Only had 2.5 seasons in New York. Obviously was a key trade piece for the Knicks to get OG Anunoby. And he should be part of what I think a lot of people talk about when you talk about this recent group of Knicks and how the Knicks have developed some of the young players. I don't think the Knicks sometimes get enough credit for that. But Emanuel Quickley, he was one of their great drafting stories and development stories. You can go along with Deuce McBride You can go along, whether you want to talk about R.J. Barrett, Quentin Grimes, Mitchell Robinson, some of those young players, he was tremendous in that. And so Emanuel Quickley, a lot of memories, beloved Knick. He's kind of one of those people I think that embodies once a Knick, always a Knick. Fans will always think of IQ and what he brought to the team after he was drafted by the Knickerbockers in 2020. Next up, Isaiah Hardenstein coming in at number 22. Now, Hardenstein played only 2 seasons, but I'm going to say this. One of the best value side free agent signings you have seen the Knicks have in recent memory. Look, this guy was a key piece in the 24 playoff run, especially when Mitchell Robinson went down. He was the center you could trust. Knicks fans, you love that two-headed combination with Mitch and iHeart. One of the best Knicks big man development stories in recent years where the Knicks signed him on that 2-year deal. He overperformed in his career year in 2024, and that ultimately led to him leaving to go to the Oklahoma City Thunder because he played so well that it earned him that big contract with OKC. And obviously, the stipulation in the CBA, the Knicks weren't able to offer him as much money as OKC did, and he went and took the bag. And I don't think there's any Knicks fan that was mad really about that. They were disappointed he wasn't there because of how much value he brought to his team. And I think when you think of iHeart, you think about his toughness. You think about the rebounding. You think about how he improved as a defender. You think about his passing ability. Very underrated big man in terms of passing. This is a guy who averaged just under 8 points a game, just a little bit over 8 rebounds per game. You trusted him as a starter. You see now he started and thrived in Oklahoma City and has won a ring out there this past year. Also, tremendous screen setter. That's one of the things I think about, how he freed up things for Jalen Brunson so easily on the screens, and then his interior presence, that was missed. Because you even saw that depth and how the Knicks missed that this past season. But Isaiah Hardenstein, does he have a signature moment as a Knick? I don't think there's one thing that jumps out to you offensively. But when I think about him, I always think about the hustle. I think about the movement, how he kept a lot of possessions alive, had second chance opportunities for the Knicks. Even in that 23-24 season, and even the season before that, 22-23 season, the Knicks were one of the best teams on the glass, on offensive glass. That was largely in part due to Isaiah Hardenstein, also Mitchell Robinson. But when Mitchell Robinson went out, Isaiah Hardenstein could keep this thing going. He could keep it going on the glass. But I think if I had to think about what's his signature moment, for me, it's a play that we've already talked about and shown here. When you think about that big three, that game winner to put ahead in game 2 of the Knicks series against the Philadelphia 76ers in 2024, who got that big rebound when they needed it? Well, the scramble. You know what happened after Dante missed that first 3, right? Everybody thinks about that. Dante misses the 3. Everybody's like, hey, Dante stays ready. But none of that happens without the rebound from Isaiah Hardenstein and the pass to get it back out. So that's 2 of the things that I just talked about that Hardenstein did so well, right? Very underrated passer as a big man. He gets the offensive board, keeps that possession alive, and had the heads up play to kick it back out, and the rest is history. That's what I think about. That's him personified on that play, that he kept the play alive to then set up another teammate to be able to hit the shot there, one of the biggest shots in Knicks playoff history. But, man, Isaiah Hardenstein was a guy who lived on the glass, gave it his all, no matter what. And look, you got to love him. Look, it's another guy. Had he stayed longer, who knows where he'd be on this list. Probably be a lot higher. But in his short time, we're talking about 2 seasons, folks, 2 seasons playing at the Garden. Isaiah Hardenstein, his impact was definitely felt. And he's another guy, when he comes back to the Garden, ain't going to be no boos there. People are going to cheer him. Now, the people who are going to get booed when they come back to the Garden, they ain't on this list. We didn't put them on this list. You know who those people are. We did not put them on this list. These people, generally, when they come back, will be cheered for the most part. And Isaiah Hardenstein absolutely will be one of them. At the 21st spot, we got a fan favorite, Iman Shumpert. 4 seasons with the Knicks, 2011 to 2015. Look, defensive specialist. There's no way when you think of Iman Shumpert, you don't think of defense. Now, some of you are all going to think about The high flat top that he was rocking looked like he was trying to bring Kid and Play back in the early part of the 2010s. But he was a major part of that fun 2012-2013 team, that playoff run through their first-round pick, 17th overall. Made the all-rookie team in 2011, finished 5th in Rookie of the Year voting that year. And then here's the key thing about how good of a defender he was, on-ball defender in particular, as a rookie. He was 14th in Defensive Player of the Year voting as a rookie. And in that rookie season, averaged 9.5 points, 3.2 rebounds per game, 2.8 assists per game, and almost 2 steals per game, just 1.7 steals per game. Elite on-ball defender, high flyer in transition. And when we talk about the dunks, man, there's no way. I think about when it comes to Iman Shumpert, I think his moment, because he had a couple of dunks, and when he got steals and got in the open court, it was dope. But the moment I think about him is in that Pacers series, which didn't end well for the Knicks in 2013. He has his putback and yams it on everybody on the Pacers, and that had the crowd on his feet. That was game 2 of that series, and what a follow on that jam. I mean, this is one of the best Knicks putback dunks of all time. It's in the playoffs. Just a tremendous dunk. And he got elevated on it, cocked it back with one hand. If you're a Knicks fan, you remember that playoff. You remember that game. And, man, he was tremendous. Look, this guy was not a great scorer. He averaged just under 8 points per game in his Knicks career. But he was kind of a guy who, when the Knicks got him with the 17th pick, was a good player, could play immediately in Mike Woodson's system, is going to defend. The veterans on the team loved him. He listened. He played hard. He was the guy you want to be a 3-and-D player. His shot never really developed into the way the Knicks, I think, would have liked it to. But he's a guy who I think about when you think about Knicks and people who've played in this city and put on the jersey. He's a guy you look at and say, man, he gave a lot of effort. He gave it his all. He understood the grit, the toughness that fans like to see, particularly on the defensive end. You know, he almost in a way before was like the Josh Hart, before Josh Hart was around. He was in that sort of ilk of that toughness. Going to give it your all, going to crash the boards, going to play tough, going to get into it, mix it up with the other team's best offensive players. And he was a young guy that really fit on a team full of vets during that 2012-2013 season. So Iman Shumpert, man, one of the better Knicks draft picks, I would say, too. Probably, now you're talking about within the last 14, 15 years, one of the better draft picks. You'd have liked to have seen it better for him to stay longer in New York and extend more of his career. But in a short time, in those 3.5, 4 seasons, he made his mark in New York as a fan favorite, somebody who played with a lot of toughness. I think future years down the road, you'll see him back at the Garden. He'll get his flowers, he'll get his cheers, he'll get his ovations, and that'll be good. So, we've gone through 5 of these right now. 5 players, the first 5 players as we went from 25 to 21. And what we're going to do, as I said, we're going to do this further and further. We're going to go through it over the next couple of weeks, and we're going to go 5 at a time so that you guys can get to it. So tell me, did we miss? Is there anybody you think that should have been in these bottom 5 of this top 25 list? We still got a lot more to go. Still another 20 players to go. So maybe a guy that you thought should have been here, maybe I have him higher. Maybe you don't think it's there, but we will definitely go through it. So at number 25, we had Marcus Camby. At number 24, we had Dante DiVincenzo. At number 23, we had Emanuel Quickley. At number 22, we had Isaiah Hardenstein. And at number 21, we had Iman Shumpert. I think it's a pretty good 25 through 21. We'll see what the next are. We're going to go for the next 5 coming up next week on New York Got Game. But as I said, let me know in the comments what you think about these first 5, or the bottom 5, I should say, in these top 25 Knicks of the last 25 years.
The Knicks are on fire!
Offseason news continued around the New York Knicks this week that we have to talk about. So it's all about contract extensions. That's what we've talked about a lot through the offseason with the Knicks after they've made their signings. And it was who were they going to extend next? Well, earlier last week, Mikal Bridges agreed to a 4-year, $150 million contract extension. And joining me now to talk about it here on New York Got Game is my guy, beat reporter for the New York Knicks, with us here at the New York Post, my guy, Stefan Bondy. Steph, what's going on, man?
What's up, man? Good, man. It's getting the summer rolling.
Hey, yeah, I feel like the summer's been rolling. I feel like the summer's almost over. We're there. We're almost done with the summer. Before you know it, it's training camp, and we're talking about the season. I didn't mean to put that on you. Try to enjoy your summer. So,
yeah, man.
I get it. I get it, man. All right, but let's talk about this extension for Mikal Bridges. I think some people thought it might have came a bit earlier. What did you make of the timing of this extension? And there's a date attached to us with August 6th, which matters here, which this extension got done before that. But what did you make of the timing of this extension for Mikal Bridges and the Knicks?
Yeah. I mean, listen, it could have been done earlier. A lot of extensions got done earlier. There was the rumor, and I could not verify this, so I don't know if it's true, but there was the rumor that the Knicks were waiting on word from Giannis Antetokounmpo to determine whether or not he would become available. And, I don't know if Giannis is committed to the Bucks, and I don't know if that played a factor, but that's been the rumor out there. But otherwise, like you said, the timing it seemed like it dragged a little bit, but it got done before the time when the Knicks could still trade Mikal Bridges before the February deadline, by agreeing to the extension now.
Yeah, had they signed him after August 6th, that would not have been on the table for them to be able to trade him at the February deadline. I guess, Steph, the next thing for me is, what did you make of the fact that Mikal Bridges took less than the max here? Could have signed for 4 years, $156 million. He takes $6 million less. How significant is that for the Knickerbockers here?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to say. We're now getting into the apron stuff. I don't understand it. I mean, they've been pumping up the idea that they have all this flexibility moving forward. I don't see it. I think next season, the starting lineup by itself, and I'm including Josh Hart in that lineup, is making $190 million. So you're not going to have much money to fill out the bench. And, they still have Mitchell Robinson's contract out there. He will become a free agent after the season if he doesn't sign an extension. So listen, they are now a high salary team. They were for the first few years of Leon Rose's tenure, they were one of the lowest salaries in the NBA. But this is their roster. It came from James Dolan during the middle of last season when he went on the Roommates podcast and said, "This is the team. They're all in the same age range. They're now all committed contractually for at least 2 more seasons, and the only real flexibility that I see is making a trade." So yeah, I don't know how much this extra $6 million spread out over 4 years makes that much big of a difference. And I kind of push back at the idea that this was some grand gesture on the on the behalf of Mikal Bridges. I mean, he did not have a great season last season. And I thought $150 million over 4 years, that's about where I'd peg him salary-wise. So if he had hit free agency next year, would he get more than that? It's hard to say. He'd have to have a better year than he had last season. This isn't like when Jalen Brunson took that $156 million when you knew that when he became a free agent, it'd be different. He'd be getting that max deal. We didn't know that Mikal Bridges would be getting that max deal if he became a free agent.
No, that's a good point. The two discounts here, if you want to say that, are not the same. They are not equal at all whatsoever. However, Steph, I have to say this. I remember last year before the start of the season, you and I were talking about how confusing some of this apron stuff is, and still don't know. I feel like, what do we have to do in the offseason? We got to go to apron school? Do we have to, try to learn a little bit more about the finances? What do you and I have to do here? We got to do something to get sharper.
Well, I'm just going to keep doing what I've been doing. And that's texting Bobby Marks if I have a question. I told Bobby, I said, listen, I wish you were sitting next to me at all times when I'm having arguments. When my friends are saying, they should trade this guy, they should trade this guy. I'm like, I don't know if it's possible, but let me text Bobby to figure out.
Bobby?
Because he knows.
Hey, he's the best in the business at that. He will let you know if something is wrong. I do want to ask this, Steph, before I let you go. You did mention Mitchell Robinson, right? He is also extension eligible. What do you think the Knicks are going to do with him? Do you think they'll extend him, especially considering his injury history, or is he somebody they're going to let play out this season and maybe even possibly use him as a trade candidate?
Yeah, I mean, I'd be lying if I could tell you anything definitively, but if I were the Knicks, I would not extend him. I'd let him hit free agency. I think free agency has become different. Now there's not going to be a lot of teams with cap space. There's going to be more next summer than there was this summer, but the market is not there for free agents anymore. So if Mitchell Robinson, and listen, Mitchell Robinson wants to get paid. He's made it known he wants to get paid. He wants to get paid. So Mitchell Robinson is saying, listen, I want an extension for, $25 million a year. The Knicks should say, all right, we'll wait till you get free agency. We have your bird rights, and we'll go from there. So, yeah, you mentioned the injury history. We'll see how he plays next season. But if it were me, I would not sign him to an extension if he was talking at such big numbers.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you on that. Last thing for me before we get out of here. Mikal Bridges, you talked about how last year he did not have a great season. That is true. It was very up and down during the regular season. He had some moments in the playoffs. Obviously, huge defensively, the games 1 and games 2 against Boston, those plays he came up with. This season, and I think we still have a lot to see about how Mike Brown's system will play out for these guys, but do you think Mikal Bridges is in a position to be much better than he was last season in Mike Brown's system and maybe just more relaxed year 2 here with the Knicks?
Yeah, it's possible. I think that the idea for this team now is they're gonna try not to rely as much on Jalen Brunson and try to distribute the ball and the scoring a little bit more. And I think that works into OG Anunoby's desire and Mikal Bridges' desire to be more part of the offense. So I think the idea going into the season is to feature him more. That's an opportunity for him to show some of the things that he demonstrated while the number 1 guy in Brooklyn. We'll see if it actually comes to fruition. I don't know. Jalen Brunson is the best player on this team. So you're really going to take the ball out of his hands? You think that's going to work? It's kind of Jalen. This is who Jalen Brunson is in a lot of ways. He was like this at Villanova. They won 2 championships because of this at Villanova, where he has the ball in his hands, and that's the way he operates offensively. So it's going to take an adjustment from a lot of people, and it's possible that Mikal Bridges could be the benefactor of that.
All right, we will see if he is the benefactor of that, but for now, he signed a 4-year, $150 million contract extension with the Knicks, as the Knicks took care of a little bit more business this offseason. Steph, I appreciate you. Going to let you go and enjoy the rest of the summer, and maybe we'll talk soon when the Knicks sign somebody with their final roster spot with that veterans minimum. We'll see if that happens, when that happens. But thank you, man. Appreciate you.
All right, man. Appreciate it.
The Knicks are heating up.
Okay, moves being made for the Knicks. We will see what they do next. They still can possibly sign someone with the last veteran minimum spot that they have in their roster. We'll see if that gets done over the next couple of weeks. As far as content that goes here on the show, now I heard it from a lot of you. A lot of you liked the film breakdown that I did last week with myself and Brian Fonseca, where we looked at the Knicks rookie players and how they could fit into Mike Brown's system. So if you haven't seen that, check that out on the New York Post Sports YouTube channel. Do have some more stuff coming from you in that realm. We will have more video breakdowns. I have one that's coming later this week where we look at the Knicks' 2 best offensive players, Jalen Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns, and how they can fit into Mike Brown's pick and roll schemes and how they can be even more effective offensively this coming season than they were last season. I think it's a fun one that you guys will enjoy, so stay tuned for that. Also, next week here on the show, we will continue our top 25 Knicks of the last 25 years. We'll be going with numbers 20 to 16, so we'll see how the list shakes out there. But that's going to be a wrap for this week's episode. Special thanks to my guest, the Knicks beat writer here for the New York Post, my guy Stefan Bondy. As always, got to thank the people that make this show work and look as good as it does. That is my producer, Erica Block, associate producer, Nick Federico, editor, Eduardo Guerrero, and production assistant, Tommy Cohen. I'm Dexter Henry. We'll catch you next time on another edition of New York Got Game.
And thanks for watching New York Got Game. Boom shakalaka.